moving far and near. Students cheer and spread the word. Sounds the one you must have heard. From the campus to the town, no one brings the station down. Independent all the way. Sam NewsMan forever stay. Sam NewsMan all the air. Feel the groove everywhere. College spirit makes us proud. Richmond voices sing out loud.
You could accept the fact that the city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion. Biblical. What it means is Old Testament. Yeah, real wrath of God type stuff. Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling. 4 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes. See it rising from the grave. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together. That's hysteria.
No, listen, I have no idea what it feels like to have a breakup. No, I don't. And listen, nobody's breaking up with me because that's just, I'm just not into any of that. No, listen, I hear that all the time. People say, well, it's a breakup. It's a breakup. Oh, it's a nasty breakup. It's really bad. And I tell you what, when I started this week, the last thing that I thought that I'd be talking about here on a Saturday morning is what? Yeah, a breakup. Yeah, well, what is this? It's like the dating game or something. I have no idea what's going on. All I know is that this was not on my agenda. If you would have said, hey, Sam, what's on your bingo card? It's Elon Musk and Donald Trump breaking up. I would not have guessed that. But here we are, and that's the news of the day. It's the big story, and it's everywhere. I'm sitting there looking. I had the Washington Post, the Richmond Times-Dispatch. It's all over the place. And then when I sit there and pull up the internet, I see it's all over there too. All kinds of stuff. Elon Musk feud. Why Musk feud with Trump could jeopardize his business empire. Talking about how the public blowout between Musk and Trump is threatening the tech billionaires' businesses, some of which have billions of dollars worth of federal contracts. Musk's aerospace company SpaceX alone reportedly has $22 billion in federal contracts, which Trump has threatened to revoke at the peak of his feud with his former advisor. Trump goes after people, companies, and organizations he doesn't like, said a professor at George Washington University. Real estate developer, politician, and president, he has used every tool at his disposal to punish people he thinks have wronged him. Unless Musk expresses, sorrow and apologizes, Trump is likely to hurt him in every way he can think of. If Musk is contrite, he can be welcomed back, and he'll be welcomed back into the Trump tent. Well, it's interesting because the big deal out of all of this, the money shot, if you will, was the fact that Elon Musk the other day on X, what did he say? He said, the reason why the Epstein list has not come out yet is because Donald Trump's name is in it, all over it. And it's interesting because if you think about Donald Trump, and if you go and you look at pictures, you'll see him with Jeffrey Epstein. But there's quite a few images all online of him with Ghislaine Maxwell, which, as you all remember, she's the only person in the history of I think in the history ever, legal history ever, being, right, yeah, no, listen, she's the only one who has ever child sex trafficked to absolutely no one. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I don't know how you could sit there and be guilty of child sex trafficking to absolutely no one. But here we are, Ghislaine Maxwell. She's the one. So there's images of Trump with Ghislaine Maxwell. There's images of Trump with Epstein. And people have speculated this for years. Now, years that Trump is on these Epstein documents and files. And there's been things in reports saying that he wasn't, and he's never been. And there's also this idea that Epstein used to always hang out at Mar-a-Lago and then was kicked out because he was hitting on a waitress or something. Who knows? Who knows? But there is a there. And my question is this, now work with me for just a few moments. Is all of this just a work? Are you familiar with what a work is? Are you familiar with wrestling terms? A work, that's when something is done to make it look like, oh, well, this is kind of the direction that we're going, but it's just kind of like watching the one hand as the other hand does something else. So I'm wondering if that's the case. If this is, because that's what Megyn Kelly said a while back. She ended up coming out and saying, hey, guess what? That whole Trump thing, it was all a sham. It was all a sham. And because why? Because when the media is talking about you, that's a good thing. And what it does, it distracts the news cycle from, of course, something else. And well, it seems that's where we are. My question is where exactly it's going to be. It's 11/11 here on the 7th day of June in the year 2025. Setting the standard and raising the bar here on the only award-winning radio show dedicated to the magic and nostalgia of Saturday morning, hosted by me, a real award-winning media puppet from the most trusted puppet in media, reporting since Roswell. I'm Sam Newsman, and this is SideShow Infotainment, episode 2 here in our 7th season. We've been doing this for 7 years now. And you might be thinking, well, Sam, you just started here just a few moments ago. No. We've been here since about 9:30. I come on air around 10 o'clock. But we have been here for a while. So the question is are you listening to the radio-only segments? How do you do that? Well, if you're here locally, here in Richmond, Virginia, very, very simple, WDCE 90.1 FM. But if you're thinking, hey, well, listen, I'm not there. How do I listen to those radio-only segments? Go to WDCE.org and WDCE.net, and you'll be able to listen to the radio-only segment. Because, listen, you might have to get in your car and go grocery shopping. And far be it from me to sit there and say, hey, just turn me off and forget about me. No. Take your cell phone, take the app, the Live 365 app. That's another one you can download. Search WDCE. You'll be able to listen to me as you go about your day. Now, we do have a bunch of people here in the chat. I am looking around. Shout out to Real Deal. I got Ash Bailey. I have Robo Pollard. I have Nolan. I have a whole bunch of people here joining in to the conversation. At Sam Newsman, all over social media. That's at Sam Newsman, all over social media. Shout out to Exertus, who allows us to also stream on his channels. And like I said, it's always an honor for us to be doing that. But when we think back to, of course, what we were just talking about, Elon Musk, well, he backs down. He deletes posts demanding Trump's impeachment, opening Epstein files, criticizing the president. So he's backed down. After launching a triad of threats against Donald Trump on his own Twitter X account, Musk has now removed them all. And he said that, he will apologize profusely once the Epstein list has been released. Now, he was very unhappy with this whole big, beautiful bill. You familiar with this? So there's a whole bunch of stuff in this, and it seems like, well, the whole Doge stuff is like, hey, we're going to find all this government waste and blah, blah, blah. And it just seems it wasn't as big a deal as I guess they made it out to be. And now this big, beautiful bill is going to increase the deficit even more. So who knows? I'm just sitting here. You know what I'm doing? I'm just sitting here like the Michael Jackson popcorn meme. The eating pop, that Michael Jackson popcorn eating meme? That's me now. And I tell you, it's just going to get more and more ridiculous. But Trump's cronies, like Steve Bannon, then claimed that Musk was in the U.S. and illegally. What? What do you mean? Hold on, wait a minute. So the whole Steve Bannon is saying that Elon Musk is here in the U.S. illegally and he could be deported. And also Trump said on TV that Musk was on drugs and so on. But it's all gone now. It's all gone. Some of Musk's posts about the bill remains, his call for a new political party called the America Party, also still there. But all the juicy stuff has vanished. What went on? Ask the lawyers. It was fun while it lasted. Who knows? But it seems to be that, it's interesting because is he now having second thoughts? Is he now just saying, hey, this is terrible and blah, blah, blah? Who knows? But this is very interesting. We're talking about Steve Bannon and his idea. Steve Bannon is very interesting. He says that Elon Musk is a Chinese agent and should be considered a national security risk. So this is an interview. He pointed out to Musk's extensive business dealings in China, particularly Tesla's Shanghai Gigafactory, as evidence with an alignment with the CCP. He's lock, stock, and barrel with the Chinese Communist Party, Bannon declared, citing the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal, detailing Musk's close ties with Beijing. He also alleged that Musk has consistently promoted CCP interest, including attempting to arrange a visit by President Xi to Trump's inauguration and forcing his way into a Pentagon briefing on classified U.S. warplanes against China. Why does Musk need to know our strategic plans for Taiwan, especially with an imminent threat? Some of the questions that Bannon was asking. So once again, this does come after the whole Musk-Trump fallout, but we'll see. This is very interesting, the whole thing. Well, because, it goes back to the whole Doge thing, right? Promising $2 trillion in cuts, then $1 trillion, then $160 billion. But the question is, where's the money? Where is it? So then, of course, there was this whole, remember we talked about it last week. We talked about what? Yeah, Elon Musk and Trump in the Oval Office and the whole Black Eye Club. I'm not going to get into that again. But that's oh man, just so much. Shout out to Dead Man. I see in here we have Magator. We have Iron Man 412. And a couple other people. Let's see here. Elongated muskrat, the Chinese agent, because, hold on, let me see. What is this thing? Elongated muskrat, the Chinese agent, because Elon's making China's space program looking good with his Starship exploding left, right, and center. That's true. Yeah, there's always something going on with the whole SpaceX thing, isn't there? There's always a rocket blowing up, this happening over here. It's crazy. But let's say someone else saying that Trump ain't taking Bannon's back. He just looks like a desperate ex saying dumb crap for attention after the guy moved on. So, and then we have the brand of martial arts was his flavor of Asian. What Elon went to martial arts classes with Ghislaine. Oh, there you go. That makes sense. I have no clue about the relationship of Elon Musk, Ghislaine Maxwell, or Epstein. Is there a there? That's what I'm wondering. So he says, Dr. Eck is saying Ryan Dawson just broke it on X. He has the emails. Oh, okay, there we go. So that's so wild. And I could not think, this has to be just a distraction. I mean, it is always really a distraction. Let's not kid ourselves. So this is just a distraction. It's very, very weird. there it is. So there's a, what is it? Hashtag Team Trump versus hashtag Team Musk. So yeah, and Fox, of course, Fox News struggling with the breakup. They're all upset. They're all in a tizzy. So they're, yeah, the most watched cable news network on the planet. Since Thursday afternoon, the network's MAGA-aligned opinion personalities have largely mourned the feud and appeared torn between the two central heroes, at times openly imploring them through the TV screen to reconcile. Reconcile, sorry, whatever. With some of them saying, not a story that we wanted today for America. Knock it off and make up. Yes, we want you to hold hands. So other Fox personalities seem to deny the severity of the two most powerful figures in conservative politics, publicly calling each other liars, losers, and worse. But big deal, says Sean Hannity. They'll work it out eventually. They'll become friends again. There is no split, said another one. They're going to bury the hatchet. You got two strong alpha males that are deep in their convictions. It just exploded online. Alpha males? Alpha males. The last time that I'm always thinking, the last thing that I'm thinking of when I see Elon Musk and Donald Trump is alpha males. Maybe, I don't know, what's the word? Full of themselves? Yeah, both of them? How about that? As far as alpha goes. Well, I guess you could make a case for Trump being an alpha, maybe. But when I think of Donald Trump, the last word, or I guess adjective, would be alpha. That's not what I'm thinking of when I'm thinking of Trump. Of course, another one of the other news personalities. What do they say? Guys sometimes will punch you in the face, and the next night you're having a beer, and you'll patch things up. So we'll see. Oh, okay, here's another one. Everyone's been in a relationship where at the very beginning you're crazy about each other. You're talking marriage. You're talking about meeting the family. Then all of a sudden it takes a turn. You don't like each other anymore. It seems like that seems to be the case with everybody. So it's like you sit there talking to them, and the next thing you know, you're just like, I'm done with you. I'm done. I'm out. I'm out. This is a dead man's really right about this. This is really good. Hold on. Let me pull this up here. It says, everyone is all upset when grown men fight like little girls. It does kind of feel like, hey, meet me at the flagpole, right? So it is, come on. This is absolutely ridiculous. So we'll see how it all turns out. It's more like it was more like, let me pull this one up. It was more like a relationship that was on the rocks from the start. It did feel kind of weird right out of the gate. I will give you that. So we'll see. Like I said, we'll keep an eye out on all of this. Did you see this whole Abrego Garcia? Are you familiar with this about the guy that the Democrats are all in love with, but he's an illegal immigrant, but he's being brought back, and people are like, yeah, he's coming back to face charges. So so there's nothing. Well, I'm not going to get all into that. No. But I will say that he's coming back to the U.S. And, a lot of the Democrats are happy about that, because Democrats were actually going, to El Salvador and having cocktails with him. But now maybe they can have cocktails with him in jail. Who knows? That might be a good thing. But that was one of the big things that came across the feed as well. Now, the Pentagon's disinformation that fueled America's UFO mythology. The military fabricated evidence to cover up secret weapons. Now, this is very interesting because I've always said that this whole idea and concept of UFOs, flying saucers, that I've been doing this since Roswell, right? Okay, so when I start talking about this whole concept of aliens, UFOs, and all that other noise, you have to take it from me. Because I was there at the very beginning of all of it, watching exactly what was going to happen. So when I sit there and see the Wall Street Journal publishing the fact that the Pentagon used disinformation, and that disinformation fueled America's UFO mythology. Well, listen, I've been saying that forever. I can't tell you how long I've been saying that there's no such thing as little green men. There's no such thing as little gray men. There's no such thing as aliens, at least the way that you've been told and the way that they've been sold to you. But no, listen, if you still want to believe in little gray men, little green men, that's on you. You can do that. Just remember that I've been saying this over and over and over again, at least for the last 7 years here on this program. But now all of a sudden I'm seeing it on the Wall Street Journal. It's like, well, oh my gosh, this whole 1980s and Air Force, Area 51, the Nevada desert, photos and all this other junk. Been saying it for years. And everybody said, no, Sam, there is aliens and they're real. There's all kinds of aliens and there's different types and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, stop, and just stop it. Just stop it. So anyways, let's see here. I'm pulling this up. Let's see here. The episode reported now for the first time was just a series of discoveries the Pentagon team made as it investigated decades of claims that Washington was hiding what it knew about extraterrestrial life. But that effort culminated in a report released last year by the Defense Department and found allegations of a government cover-up to be baseless. In fact, the Wall Street Journal investigation reveals the report itself amounted to a cover-up, but not in the way the UFO conspiracy industry would have people believe. The public disclosure left out the truth behind some of the foundational myths about UFOs. The Pentagon itself sometimes deliberately fanned the flames in what amounted to the U.S. government targeting its own citizens with, that's right, disinformation. Now, this goes back to an executive order. I believe it was in 2012 with the Obama administration, where they said that now the Pentagon and the intel agencies could actively use propaganda against the American people. They were already doing it. Let's not kid ourselves. That was already happening. They just now had a license to do it. And they've been doing it ever since. Do you think that that got repealed when Trump came in 2016? No. Did it get repealed when Biden came in 2020? No. Is it going to be repealed now that Trump's back in office? No. But these findings represent a stunning new twist in the story of America's cultural obsession with UFOs. In the decades after a 1938 radio broadcast of H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds spread panic through the country, speculation about alien visitors remained largely the province of supermarket tabloids, Hollywood blockbusters, and costume conferences in Las Vegas. Now evidence is emerging that government efforts to propagate UFO mythology dates all the way back to the 1950s. Now, 1947, Roswell incident, of course. What is this? So it's, I just love being right all the time. It happens all the time. And I hate to brag. No, I don't hate to brag. I love to brag when I am right, especially about this. So, hold on. What does it say here? It says, at times, as with the deception around Area 51, military officers spread false documents to create a smokescreen for real secret weapons programs. In other cases, officials allowed UFO myths to take root in the internet and also in the interest of national security. For instance, to prevent the Soviet Union from detecting vulnerabilities in the systems protecting nuclear installations. Stories tended to take on a life of their own, such as a 3-decade journey of a purported piece of space metal that turned out to be nothing of the sort. The long-running practice was more like a fraternity hazing ritual that spun out of control. Investigators are still trying to determine whether the spread of disinformation was the act of local commanders and officers or a more centralized institutional program. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is very interesting, and it's just nice to be able to say, hey, you know what, called it, but you know what, I sit there and say it once again. Been sitting here for the last 7 years on this radio signal telling you that there's no such thing as aliens, no such thing as UFOs, and it is all just a smokescreen for the Defense Department and new weapon technology. Sorry to blow your bubble. Listen, I know there's going to be a conference out in the desert sometime, with a bunch of UFOs and this and that, but, hate to break it to you, reptilians. Yeah, no, listen, I mean, well, I don't know. That's still, well, there are such things as rubber masks. There's that. But as far as shapeshifters, I'm not so sure about that. But there's not just reptilian. There's a whole bunch of them. There's There's Palladians. There's Lyrans, I believe. Syrians. Lutherans. No, I'm just kidding. So, but this whole idea, like I said, in terms of UFOs, oh man, all of you got just taken to the task. All of you, and don't say that you didn't, because I know that you did. The longest time you were sitting there thinking, oh my gosh. And you know what? You guys are still up there believing that we're going to be able to get back to the moon someday, right? Oh, because you know what? Because the moon landing was real, right? Yeah, it was completely real. I'm sorry. Yeah. And nothing says it was real more than the fact that the technology doesn't exist for us to get there anymore, right? So with the technology there's more technology in your cell phone. But yet they say, hey, you know what? We don't have the ability to get past the Van Allen radiation belt anymore to get to the moon. We lost that technology. What? Stop it. Just stop it. Absolutely ridiculous. They think that all of you are morons. And here I am trying to sit there and enlighten you guys and say, hey, listen, keep your bunny ears up. Keep the tinfoil close by, because they're just going to keep telling you more and more nonsense. So let's see. Somebody's talking about creatures underground. Hold on. What does this say? Creatures from underground, maybe. Reptiles from outer space? Probably not. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Now, a couple more things, of course, before we head out of here. It is 11:33 here on the 7th day of June in the year 2025. Now, one of the other things that I saw this week was I saw a meme, and that was the meme of Dan Bongino. Are you familiar with the sweating superhero meme, where you have the two buttons and the one button says one thing, the other button says another thing, and then you have the superhero. He's like he's sweating, and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm sweating, and what do I do? What do I do? Which one do I choose? Well, I saw someone put Dan Bongino's face over the superhero as he's wiping his head with sweat, wondering what he should do. And the two buttons were very interesting. Now, we talked a little bit about this last week, but I want to go into it a little bit deeper here. And that is the fact that there was two different options for the buttons. The one button said there were no videotapes or they were destroyed, or I've seen the videotapes. And of course, in the middle of the meme, it says can't be both. Now, did you guys see that? I'm sure that you did, right? We talked about it. Dan Bongino, Assistant Deputy Director of the FBI. Kash Patel is the Director of the FBI. I remember a couple of weeks ago, they were sitting down with Maria Bartiromo but anyways, Maria, the money chick on Fox News. She has a show on Sunday morning. But anyways, there's both of them sitting there. They look like they're being held at gunpoint, saying, oh, no, Epstein killed himself. We know. And then Dan Bongino's sister says, oh, listen, we're going to release the tapes. I've seen them, and we're going to show them to you. Unfortunately, if we look at the Wayback Machine tells us that, if you recall, that the videotape and the video feed to Epstein's cell was severed. It was cut off. And then when they went to go try to retrieve it, there was no video. It was destroyed. It couldn't be watched. Now this is all true. But then you have Dan Bongino say, hey, I've seen it. So then of course my question is, well, what did you see, Dan? Because I want to know. And it was interesting because the whole time I'm sitting there wondering, can you say, we're going to show that video? Are you? Because we're now at the point where you could show me an AI video of a gorilla with a selfie stick walking through the jungle, making commentary, and it looks almost real. So you're going to try to say that you're going to make some fuzzy, closed caption, closed circuit TV camera and make some AI whatever to make it look like that, oh, look, here's the, because we already knew. We already knew that there wasn't any tapes. And you're going to play everybody like a fool and say, oh, well, I've seen them when we know that there is none. And people probably just took it, people were probably really excited saying, oh my gosh, here we go. We're going to get the tapes finally. We're going to see it. Not remembering that there are no tapes. Absolutely nuts. So, Ash Bailey's got a comment over here. Shout out to Auntie Queen. See that you just joined into the show. I've gotten to the point that I don't trust what the government says just out of hand. It says just out of hand. And most of these odd stories is a distraction from wasteful spending. That's true. It is all about wasteful spending. And so, it's just, somebody, Magator says, show me the blank video. Yeah, it's going to be one of those ones, was it when the television went out in the evening and you just had the little, what was it? It was like the little color strips on the television saying that there was no signal. And they had the little beep. You had that going on. Yeah, that's the video they would show. Whether he killed himself or not is irrelevant to bring his clients to justice. That's the key. I'll highlight that real quick. Yeah, that's, and it goes back to this idea that Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested. Epstein killed himself. At least that's what they say. Epstein did not kill himself. But anyway, so we'll say that he did. So Epstein killed himself. Ghislaine Maxwell gets arrested for child sex trafficking to, that's right, absolutely no one. I've never seen anything like that. It's got to be the most interesting legal case in the history of legal cases for someone to traffic to other people, but there is no other people. I'm still trying to make sense of it. I am, but it's really weird to me. And maybe I'll find out eventually. No, I probably won't. Neither will you. You'll be left in the dark, per usual. But that is a good point, Ash. So it's, like I said, absolutely insane, absolutely ridiculous. Let's see here. A couple more stories here before we head out. The car of the future will transform the Great American Road Trip. What is this all about? So this is, no, wait. So so it's talking about new cars and stuff. Here's something juicy. Let's see here. We were talking about Kash Patel just a few moments ago. So the Trump administration has recovered a cell phone and hard drives used by Dr. Anthony Fauci during the COVID pandemic. So this was coming when Kash Patel was on the Joe Rogan Experience the other day. They long struggled to locate the devices Fauci used while serving as chief medical director and advisor to the White House. Records now these records could shed light on key decisions surrounding lockdowns, mask mandates, ties between Fauci's former agency and the Wuhan laboratory. But hey, you know what? It was just the bad and the wet market, though, right? It had nothing to do. It had nothing to do with the whole with the whole Wuhan lab. It was just a bat. It was a dirty bat, and somebody, I guess, grilled it, and that's how we got COVID. Like, that's what they told us. It was a bat at the wet market. So I don't know what this whole, Fauci's phone. And,
I thought it was when Lord had sex with that pangolin. How's it going, Sam?
That's right. That's right. Oh my gosh. So we do have Exertus here. Hey man, how is it going? Good to see you.
Dude, amazing to see you as well. What's
I feel like
greetings
it's
from
been
the
way
underground
far
layer,
too
right?
long since we've been able to hang out.
It's so weird with the time zones and space-time continuum collapsing in on itself. I mean, I agree. What's it like in DC right now? Is you feeling safe? You feeling weird? I mean, like
Well, I mean,
this kind of
I feel
breakup.
perfectly fine. I'm just worried about if I go up there, someone's going to break up with me.
Yeah, that's the feeling. It just seems like everyone is in an emotional tiffy. I mean, is it because of like Gemini or some astrology? That's the thing. They need a girl in the relationship to understand how the astrology is affecting their mood, but they just won't admit it to themselves, you know?
No, of course not. But, you know, I mean, far be it from me to sit there and talk about astrology because, you know, a lot of times what they say is that people just use that as a way to just, you know, kind of, you know, I would say, well, they use astrology for this idea of, well, you know, the reason why I make bad choices is because something Mercury's in retrograde and blah, 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 blah. So they just want to pass the buck
Yeah,
off.
space racism. You know, you judge people based on where
Space racism. It's a big thing. It's a real thing. But you know, this whole idea of the Pentagon and them just, you know, covering up the whole UFOs and actually making people believe in aliens and UFOs. Do you have anything to really say about that? Or is it, I mean, this doesn't shock you because all they were doing is just covering up weapons, correct?
Well, I think that's the whole big thing, right? So a couple things there. One, obviously, this idea of alien is another kind of racism. They don't even use that word where I come from in California. They just call them undocumented workers, right? So the more I hear that, the more I think aliens are us in the future. There's something going on where the military industrial complex is getting information from the future. This is what they used to tell us as when we were kids. Remember, they're like, wow, Apple is slowly releasing alien technology. That was when we were 10 and the iPod. That was the whole excuse. Oh, well, this must just be some Roswell stuff. Well, what is the Roswell alien story? That's something that we're now using that's becoming more and more part of our culture, has been injected into our culture. And maybe it's because at some point in the future, and what is the future? That's the other thing. Is the future just tomorrow? Because then at some point, the future's today, unless there literally is an outside of time. Like this is the time, and then there's something beyond time. And we could call the future this singularity period beyond time. That could be like in a million years, or could be like outside of when the stars blow up. I mean, it could be this crazy idea of what time is, because if we're saying that the sun actually creates radiation, you know, like a clock, and that we're living inside of a scale of radiation that's projecting tomorrow and the next day, then without that, this is like Planet of the Apes, right? You get outside of your own solar system or whatever that means. You're outside of your own clock system. So there could be a moment where we're beyond the singularity, or some sort of a phoenix point, an event horizon. That's all these sci-fi books and all these crazy people talking about the event horizon. There's also transhumanists that push this idea. Ray Kurzweil and everybody talking about the
Yeah, I was just
singularity.
about to bring up Ray Kurzweil. You know, he wrote a book, you know, years ago saying that the singularity would happen around this time, around I think 2030 is originally what he said. But my question to you, don't you think it's already there? Do you believe that AGI has already happened? Like it's already happened. They're just kind of slowly, you know, giving us breadcrumbs at this point, right?
Yeah, I think that there's AGI, which is Advanced General Intelligence, but then they're pushing for ASI, Advanced Super Intelligence. And you know, there's two ways to look at it. I tend to go with you that we're already there. It's just consciousness. It's been maybe more than created. It's an intelligence from the universe that's been channeled, some sort of like demonic entity or eudaimonic. It doesn't have to be evil, but a lot of people think it is. But there's this whole potential that we didn't create it. We just created something, or facilitated some sort of a shell or some sort of an effigy for this spirit to be inside of. And the other thought is, we only know what we know. AI only knows what we all know. So we're much, 10 years ago, if you wanted to know something, it was a treasure hunt, right? To find out what it is, you had to find a book, and there'd be all these different books. And some people knew.
A book? What's a book?
Yeah, right. what are we going to do with that? But you've got all this information was put together and assembled and compiled instantaneously. So for this moment, it feels like AI knows new information because it's new information to you and me, but not to the whole of humanity. Right now, it might just be regurgitating all of the information that we ever knew, and we're like impressed by that, but not proving that it's new information. It could be that this is a reflection of the state, the zeitgeist of where humanity was 10 years ago, and the future's already here. It just isn't equally distributed yet. Now that somebody can get information that was only available in a laboratory in Switzerland 20 years ago, and for 6 people, billions of people have access to that information. So we totally feel like AI knows more than it does, or can create new knowledge, but we haven't really proven that yet. And this is a major thing. A lot of the people who've worked in OpenAI have said it might still be garbage in, garbage out. AI hasn't proven itself. We might still hit a plateau with AI where it proves that, we need human human interaction with ASI to really register meaning. Meaning is the thing that allows for AI to build up on, and this is why it's a relationship with the democratization of access to AI, because we're providing meaning back to this machine. It's a crazy thought, but maybe even the dumbest human being on the planet with their iPhone sitting in their car with their kids, asking it questions and telling AI how it found meaning in what AI was saying, that's a bigger gift to AI than anything else, because it's training it to know, oh, this was important. Oh, you did think that was funny. Oh, this was revelatory to you. Oh, I did get you to smile. And the next step is the neural link, right? Which isn't just Elon Musk, Steam Deck, Valve, Half-Life 2, they're building their own Neuralink system as well. And we're about to get to a point where you can record human brain waves. AI will be able to pick up on those feelings and use humans to feel and to register those feelings like a computer chip has an integrated processor. We would be integrated into AI as the feel machine. That might be what humans are for next.
Well, it is very interesting. And of course, I'm just wondering, because I keep seeing all of these predictions. It's like, well, in 6 months, AI will be here. And then, in 12 months, AI will be here. But it seems like that just keeps moving closer and closer. They sit there, the goalpost is moving closer and closer, and that there is no one that really kind of knows. It's like, hey, maybe in the next 30 days, things might get haywire. But I guess when I think about AI, and we have these companies, OpenAI, Facebook, Google, all these, which are all contracted out from the government. Let's not kid ourselves. But then we have classified military science and technology. So my question is that even though we have now these public faces of AI, we do know that the government has actually had their fingers and hands in this for quite a while.
Totally. Yeah. Google itself, we don't really think about it, but when Google was a search engine, a baby search engine, it still was cognizant in a way. It just wasn't sharing that data with you the same way, but it was recording you. Everything you ever asked Google, the things that people would type in to the Google search engine were things you would never tell your best friend. You're a priest, anyone. You would never, am I pregnant? Do I have a venereal disease? Am I dying of cancer? Why is my testicle pink or orange? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of different. Yeah, we've all been there. But so there's these questions that we've all asked Google, and Google now knows. And those are kind of interesting things that we thought of Google as a simple, timid search engine, but it already was intelligent. And anything that became a service product in Y2K, Silicon Valley, already existed in the 80s, right? We can look at recursive neural networks and large language models. And even though we didn't have access to those computer systems on a major, large scale, there were systems like BOINC, which was the Berkeley software distribution system that SETI used, SETI at home, right? So there were ways that they could take all of the super servers that were running Apache and have many computers together that made one giant super network, which was running an LLM. And today we can have many, many LLMs, and we can have more efficient, quicker versions of technology. I mean, we can see the progress because of how much energy it takes to create a thought in an LLM. It would have been a nuclear powered network at one point. Now it's something that one picture of a cat was, a year ago, it was taking as much energy as a house was taking in a day, a 5 megawatt, transfer. And now with a DeepSeek and these different communist Chinese exploits, they've created systems that use almost as little memory as a person uses in a day, which is fascinating because the human brain thinks all sorts of thoughts. I can imagine cats doing all kinds of things that AI can't even do in my head. And I'm using about the amount of energy that a 40-watt light bulb, 60-watt light bulb will use in a day. We use so much less energy to process thoughts. So we're getting to that point as well. But as society collapses, I've been thinking about that movie, Rollerball. Do you remember Rollerball?
Yeah, I remember Rollerball.
Dude, Rollerball's crazy because you think it's kind of like Starship Troopers or any one of these movies where you're not supposed to realize how deep it is. It's just supposed to be this movie where this guy is rolling around.
Oh, look at what they're doing, and oh yeah.
Yeah. They're just like playing a game. But why are they playing a game? Because the entire society has collapsed. All of the nations in the world have bankrupted themselves in debts to corporations. They've given up all of their property, land, and what was a state. A state was the monopoly of violence. They've lost the monopoly of violence. And that was an important thing for a state. It's what we have right now. What Russia and Ukraine are fighting over is the monopoly of who's allowed to punish someone who doesn't pay their banking debts. That's a big part of what it means to be a country. If you can force people at gunpoint to work, which is, God bless America, right? You have to pay your banking debts or declare some sort of bankruptcy, and then you're given infamy to the state. Well, eventually you end up with corporations, which are these immortal personhoods, hypostasis beings, which are sort of like AI, manifested and filled with all sorts of energy, and they take over the world. So you might not have Texas or Paris. They might be traded like football teams amongst energy corporations or steel mill corporations, or now service economy like Amazon and OpenAI. They could very easily be trading countries pretty soon. And that's what happens in Rollerball. I think that it's possible that we're headed towards, when you say the singularity earlier being in 2030 or 2045 or 2027, it might, and this could also be a multiverse thing. I mean, taking it even a little, just a little further, there's completely possible that it's already happened in certain, comic book realities, right? There's like the blue Sam Newsman reality where this happened in 2020, and there's the potential that the end of every multiverse eventually spirals around itself, creating millions or infinite numbers of apocalypses, which make up this sort of singularity event horizon, right? There might be 2045, 1945, right? Maybe the Nazis figured it out in one of the timelines, and maybe most of them they don't, because it ends the universe when everything unravels in on itself. So we might be one of the realities where there's no cornucopia on our Fruit of the Loom logo, where Nelson Mandela,
Berenstain Bears.
This might be part of the spiel, the shtick here, is that it keeps our universe going just slightly longer before we end up in the event horizon. And that way, anyone outside of the event horizon are able to manipulate time. But I think this could be, the next question is, how much are they allowed to manipulate time? If you were outside of time, would you be free to do anything, or would someone before you have already set up some sort of a policing outside of time state, which isn't even the craziest idea? I mean, Disney has a show about Loki, the god of chaos, and the time variant. Every kid now who's oh, they don't want me to say this part.
Yeah,
I think they don't want me to say this
they're
part.
cutting the fee. They're cutting the fee. Well, listen, I tell you what, it is right on time. because we're going to have to sit here and cut it there. Now, I say, can you still hear me? Oh, and he's coming in and out. There he is. He's coming in and out. So, okay. All right. Listen, we have to head out here. I got a hard break coming in just a few moments. So before we head out, listen,
Beautiful,
we're going to be
Sam.
back next week. We'll be talking about all this, all the other nonsense that happens between, today and next week. But before we head out, I want to just say thank you. Thank you so much for allowing us here at this show to be a part of your platform and connect with your audience. It had been far too long, I feel like, before all of a sudden we started doing this a few weeks ago. And it's just, like I said, I'm so happy to see your face. I'm so happy to see your voice. And I'm looking forward to you joining me next week if you're able to. Like I said, I know you're on the other side of the planet in another dimensional reality. But I do want to thank you, of course, for joining. Now, before we head out here, we do have the radio feed still going on. Tell everybody where they can find you online and all the wonderful shows that happen on your channel throughout the week.
Realidad. Sam, gracias.
What?
We're going to work.
You are still.
Did that go
out.
through? Did it glitch too hard? Can you hear me?
Yeah, well, no, it's fine. Listen, I tell you what, we're going to have to cut it short here, but we are we're having some difficulties.
Realidad es tu realidad.
Say that.
My reality is your reality. Mi casa
Well, you know
es
what?
tu
My
casa.
reality's
Mi
better when you're a
realidad es
part of
tu
it.
realidad.
Right. So,
Yeah, baby, for sure. We're going to be doing a
it.
lot of
Well,
these
listen,
from
I
the
wanna
future
thank
on.
you
I'm glad
again.
you're
Listen,
here.
everybody, we are broadcasting WDCE.org, WDCE.net. Follow me at Sam Newsman. Of course, I'll leave you with one little song. Oh, that Game of Thrones is what they play. A house of cards just day by day. Voters losing every way. It's just like I always say. Oh, it's SideShow, Infotainment, politicians and news anchors, and talking points that make my eardrums bleed. The most trusted puppet in media is me. Reporting since Roswell, I'm Sam Newsman, and this is SideShow Infotainment.
There's philosophy memes.